The girl in the cage. The prison ship floated silently in the cold black of space. Metal walls groaned under pressure. Inside, the air smelled of rust, blood, and fear. Commander Rain opened his eyes. His head hurt. His hands were tied behind his back. Two tall alien guards dragged him down a dark hallway. Their armor was black and smooth like polished stone. Human. Fighter class, one guard said, reading from a small glowing tablet. War criminal. They stopped near a large metal door. It opened with a hiss. Inside was a long, narrow room filled with cages. Some were empty. Others held silent prisoners with dull eyes and broken spirits. The guards threw Rain into the nearest cell. He hit the floor hard. The door slammed shut behind him. Rain sat up slowly, shaking the pain off. He looked around. And then he saw, or she sat in the cage across from him. She looked like a girl, maybe 16, maybe 20. It was hard to tell. Her long black hair was tangled and dirty. Her clothes were torn. Her skin was covered in dust and bruises. But her eyes were sharp. Very sharp. She didn't blink. She just watched him. One of the guards laughed. That one? She's been here for years. They call her Subject 9. Useless, broken. She's still alive, the other muttered. Not sure how. The door closed and the guards left. Rain and the girl sat in silence. Finally, Rain spoke. What's your name? She didn't answer. He leaned forward, resting his arms on his knees. You understand me, right? Still, no reply. Rain sighed. I'm Rain, Commander, Earth Federation, or... I was. He paused. You're human, aren't you? Her eyes didn't move. But something changed in them. A flicker, like a match in the dark. I know how they treat humans here, Rain said. But you're still alive. That's something. Suddenly, a loud siren echoed through the ship. Red lights flashed. Somewhere in the distance, shouting began. A riot. The cages shook as prisoners screamed and pounded on the bars. Guards ran past the hallway. Explosions shook the walls. Rain stood up, ready to fight if needed. Then he saw her move. Fast, too fast. She stood up and walked to the back of her cage. With one hard kick, she broke a loose panel in the wall. She reached inside and pulled out a long metal rod, sharp on one end. She had been planning this. She turned her eyes to Rain. Still no emotion. Just focus. Hey, he said. You had a weapon this whole time? Still no answer. She stabbed the control panel on her door. Sparks flew. The cage door opened. Rain stared. Wait. How did you... She ran. 3 guards came from the corner. She jumped, rolled, and spun between them. The rod moved like lightning in her hands. One guard fell with a scream. Another hit the wall hard. The third tried to run, but she threw the rod. It struck his back. She walked back slowly and pulled it out. Rain stood there stunned. You could have escaped any time. Why didn't you? She looked at him. For the first time, she spoke. They were watching, always watching. Not anymore. She pressed a button on his cage. The door opened. He stepped out. Why help me? She shrugged. You asked me my name. No one else did. They moved together down the hallway, stepping over fallen guards and broken lights. The ship shook again. A fire burned in the distance. She moved like she had done this before, like she knew the path. Rain followed, half in awe. As they passed a broken window, he saw her reflection in the glass. Dirt-covered, eyes cold, body thin, but there was strength there, power. She didn't look like a prisoner, she looked like a warrior. What did they do to you? He asked softly. She paused. Experiments, upgrades, tests. I passed them all. But they kept you locked up. They were afraid. He nodded slowly. They should be. She turned to him, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. This ship, it's not just a prison, it's a lab. They're building something. I'm going to stop it. Rain looked at her, really looked. She was broken. Yes, but not weak, not hopeless, not filthy. She was something else entirely. What do I call you? He asked. She hesitated. Then quietly she said, 9. All right, 9, he said. Let's tear this place apart. Subject 9. The air inside the lower deck of the prison ship was colder, darker, silent. Rain followed her, this girl called 9, through narrow tunnels beneath the main prison blocks. She moved like she had memorized every inch of this place. No wasted steps, no fear, only purpose. Rain had seen soldiers, killers, even enhanced fighters, but none like her. As they turned a corner, they passed a door half open, sparks flickering from the control panel. Rain peeked inside. It was a lab. Tables, restraints, blood, tools. He stepped closer. Don't touch anything, 9 said flatly, without looking. What is this place? The testing floor, level 4B. I was born here. Rain looked at her. Born? I don't mean like that, she said. I was taken when I was 7. I don't remember my name. They gave me a number. 9. I was the 9th subject in the human trial program. Rain walked past a wall covered in faded writing. Notes, symbols, equations. How many trials? 19, she replied. 18 died. 1 survived. You, she, nodded. He studied her face in the dim light. For a second he thought he saw pain. Not fear, not hate, but deep pain, hiding behind those sharp eyes. They kept moving. Deeper. As they walked, Rain noticed scars on her neck, her arms, and her back. Small, straight marks. Surgical. Clean. You were enhanced? He asked. More like modified. They gave me tech, neural cores, muscle threads, bone shielding, optic upgrades. I didn't ask for any of it. And now? Now I use it. They reached a small door, half hidden behind a pile of broken metal. 9 kicked the panel, and it opened with a soft hiss. Inside was a tiny room, bare, cold. On one wall, scratched into the steel, were hundreds of lines, marks, one for each day. This was my cell, she whispered. Rain stepped in slowly. He could feel the silence in the walls. It wasn't just a room, it was a graveyard. For hope. Why didn't you escape before? He asked. They told me the world was gone, she said. That Earth was ashes, that no one was left. I believed. Them! Rain turned sharply. They lied, she smiled, just a little. I know. Now. Suddenly, the room lights flickered. A voice echoed from the speakers above. Cold, mechanical, not human. Subject 9. Return to containment. You cannot run. 9's eyes narrowed. Rain looked up. They're tracking us. No. They're watching me. Always have been. How? She pulled something from under her skin, a small chip blinking red. I was saving this for the right time, she said. She crushed it under her boot. The lights went dark. Alarms blared. 9 pulled Rain by the arm. They're coming. We go to the nest. The nest? You'll see. They ran through the lower halls. The floor shook under their feet. Somewhere above, security bots were dropping down. They reached a wide chamber lit by a strange blue glow. Inside were rows of metal pods, at least 100. What is this place? Rain whispered. 9's voice was quiet. A cloning bay, but not for aliens. She walked to one of the pods and wiped off the dust. Inside was a girl. She looked exactly like 9. Rain stepped back. Is that? Yes. Subject 10. Rain looked around. All the pods had humans inside. Sleeping. Still. They weren't just experimenting on you, he said. They were copying you. 9 nodded. They wanted more like me. A whole army? Do they work? No. They're unstable. If they wake up, they'll burn out in minutes. She moved to a console and typed in a code. I'm going to destroy them. Rain stopped her. Wait. Are you sure? What if they can be saved? They're not alive, she said, not like you and me. Suddenly a loud crash echoed behind them. 3 armored guards entered, their weapons charged. Step away, Subject 9, one ordered. This is your last warning. 9 said nothing. The guards raised their guns. And then everything happened, fast. 9 jumped, spinning midair, dodging the blasts. She landed behind one guard and slammed his head into the wall. Another fired. Rain tackled him, knocking the weapon aside. The last guard turned toward Rain. 9 threw a metal rod through his chest. Silence. She turned back to the console, entered the command. The pods lit up and began melting from the inside. Rain watched in horror. You just killed 100 of yourself. She looked at him. They weren't me. He nodded slowly. Then who are you? She walked past him. Someone who can't be controlled anymore. The ship's sirens screamed louder now. Voices in the speakers shouted codes, emergency lockdowns. A hunt had begun. They had become the target. Haney followed her back into the shadows. He no longer saw a girl, he saw a weapon, a storm, and she had just been set free. The labyrinth below. The ship's lower levels were not shown on any map. No guards patrolled them. No cameras watched them. Even the ship's AI stayed silent here. This was the forgotten part, cold, broken, and full of secrets. 9 led Rain through a half-burned hallway. Wires hung from the ceiling like vines. Lights flickered above their heads. The floor was wet and sticky, like something had been crawling there recently. Rain's hand gripped a stolen blaster tightly. What is this place? 9 didn't look back. They called it Section 0. The others called it the Nest. But no one who came here ever returned. Why are we here? Because the only way out is down. They reached a rusted metal gate, half open. Strange marks were scratched into the walls. Long claw lines, almost like writing. Rain stared at them. That doesn't look human. It's not. 9 stepped through the gate. The smell changed instantly. Like old blood and burned plastic. Rain covered his mouth. 9 crouched near a wall and pressed her hand against a loose panel. With a click, a hidden drawer opened. Inside was a small black device with blinking green lights. You hid something here? Rain asked. I've been planning this for years, she said. I knew I'd come back here one day, I just didn't know I'd bring someone with me. She gave him the device. Scanner. If anything moves within 20 meters, this will tell us. What kind? Of anything? 9 didn't answer. They moved deeper. The hallway opened into a large chamber wide and circular with metal bridges connecting multiple exits. Below the bridges was darkness, a bottomless pit. On one of the bridges, something moved. Rain froze. Did you see that? 9 raised her hand. Stay quiet. A long shape crept along the metal. Its body was half machine, half beast. Thin legs, glowing red eyes. Its face was covered with armor. No mouth, no nose. It didn't walk. It glided. Rain whispered, "What is that?" 9 whispered back, "It's called a silent. Failed experiment. Used to be human." The creature stopped. It sniffed the air with some kind of sensor. Then it turned and looked directly at them. "Run," 9 said. They sprinted across the bridge. Behind them, the silent let out a screech that shook the metal. It chased them with terrifying speed. Rain fired the blaster. It missed. The silent didn't stop. 9 threw a small orb behind them. It exploded in a flash of light. The creature screamed and fell back. They reached a side door. 9 slammed it shut. Heavy breathing. Silence. Rain leaned against the wall. So, that thing used to be human? 9 nodded. They used prisoners, mixed them with tech, made soldiers who didn't feel pain. But they lost control. These levels became a cage for them. How many are there? Too many. Rain looked around the new room. It was a control center. Long dead. Screens cracked, blood smeared, on the chairs. But in the middle was a glowing console still active. 9 walked over and tapped the keys. A map appeared. "This is the ship's core," she said. "The power lines, the AI system, and," she pointed to a red circle, "the heart. That's where they built the machine." "What machine?" Nine's face turned hard. "The one that can wipe out human DNA." Rain blinked. "What?" "They've been testing it here. They used me to build it. My blood, my cells. They want to erase humanity and replace it with something they can fully control." Rain stepped back. "You're telling me they're building a weapon to kill all humans and they used you to design it?" Nine looked him in the eye. "Yes." Rain didn't speak. He couldn't. She turned to him. "Now do you see why I can't let them keep me alive?" He grabbed her shoulder. "No. You're not just data, you're not a weapon, you're the only one who can stop this." She looked away. "There's more." She pulled out a small drive from her arm. "This contains all the test logs, the truth. But it only works if someone makes it off this ship." Rain nodded. "Then we both will." Suddenly the lights turned red. The console screamed. "Unauthorized access. Level breach. Silence deployed." They looked at each other, and then they ran again. This time the silence were everywhere. Crawling from walls, climbing from ceilings, screeching through the tunnels. Nine led the way, dodging, striking, moving like wind through steel. Rain followed, firing behind them. They made it to a small cargo elevator. As the doors closed, a silent jumped toward them. But Nine kicked it back. The elevator dropped. Everything went still. Breathing hard, Rain leaned against the wall. "You weren't made to destroy," he said, almost to himself. "You were made to survive." Nine looked at him. Her voice was quiet. "Then let's survive long enough to burn this ship down." The broken ones. The cargo elevator stopped with a dull thud. Dim emergency lights flickered above. The doors creaked open. Rain stepped out first, weapon ready. Nine followed, slower this time. Her eyes scanned the area like a machine. They had reached level 01, the bottommost floor of the prison ship. A place not even guards dared to go. It was silent. Too silent. The hallway in front of them was lined with cracked glass tubes, tall, narrow chambers once filled with liquid. Now empty. Burned-out wires hung from the ceiling like dead vines. "What is this place?" Rain asked quietly. Nine didn't answer right away. Then she whispered, "This is where the failures were sent." They walked deeper into the darkness. The tubes stretched for hundreds of meters. Inside some, shadows still clung to the walls, marks of people or things that had been trapped and forgotten. Some looked human, others didn't. Rain stopped at one of the tubes. Scratched inside the glass were the words, "We still remember pain." He shivered. "This isn't a lab," he said. "It's a graveyard." Nine nodded. "These were the early experiments. Before me. Before they learned how to control the process. Most didn't survive. Some did, but not fully. They reached a heavy blast door. It looked untouched for years. Nine placed her hand on a scanner. It blinked red. Then green. The door opened. Inside was a dark, cold chamber. Dozens of glowing eyes turned toward them. Humanoid figures stood in the shadows. Tall, thin, with pale skin and mechanical limbs. Their eyes flickered like dying lights. Then one of them stepped forward. He was older, maybe 30. Half his face was metal. His voice was rough and slow. "Subject 9. You came back." Rain raised his blaster. "What are these things?" 9 didn't flinch. "They're not things, they're us." The man looked at her, and for a moment his face softened. "You left us." 9 looked down. "I had no choice. You promised you would come back. I couldn't fight them alone. You still can't," the man said. Rain lowered his weapon, confused. "Who is this?" 9 answered. "He was Subject 3. He helped raise me when I was small. He taught me how to speak again, how to hide. He's the one who called me 9. Subject 3 looked at Rain. She was the last hope we had. But when she escaped, we were punished. Broken. Modified again. Rain stepped forward. We're here to stop the weapon. To destroy the core. A low laugh echoed from the shadows. You think you can destroy the core? Another voice said. A female voice this time. Soft, angry. You don't even know where it is. 9 turned sharply. 7? A young woman stepped into the light. She looked like 9. Same eyes, same voice. But her skin was pale, and her arms were entirely metal. Her smile was twisted. You left me to die, she hissed. I thought you were dead, 9 said. I was, 7 whispered. But they brought me back, piece by piece. 9 stepped forward. I didn't know, I swear. You don't get to swear, 7 spat. You ran, you survived, while we were tortured for your escape. 9's voice broke slightly. I was a child. So were we. Rain saw the pain on both their faces. This wasn't just about survival. This was about betrayal. 7 walked closer. You want to destroy the machine? Fine, we'll help. But when it's over, you answer for what you did. 9 met her eyes. I will. Subject 3 nodded. The path to the core runs under this chamber, but it's guarded. Not by silence, but by something worse. Rain raised an eyebrow. Worse? They call it the root, 3 said. It connects the ship's AI, its power source, and the original experiment. Subject 0. The first, the mind. Alive? Rain asked. Barely, 3 replied. But it feels everything, and it hates us. 9's jaw tightened. Then we kill it. No, 7 said coldly. We bury it, like it buried us. Suddenly the ship trembled. The lights flickered red. Alert. Core breach detected. AI lockdown in progress. 9's eyes widened. They know we're here. 3 grabbed a hidden panel and opened a side tunnel. Go now. We'll buy you time. Head down the spinal shaft. Straight into the heart. Rain hesitated. You'll fight them alone? 7 smirked. We've been fighting alone our whole lives. 9 looked at them both, then turned. Thank you for everything. They ran. As Rain and 9 disappeared into the lower shaft, gunfire and screams echoed behind them. 9 didn't look back. Rain asked softly, Are you okay? She didn't answer. After a long pause, she said, They called me a hero, but I think I was just the first to run. Rain placed a hand on her shoulder. You're not running now. She looked ahead, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. No, she whispered. Now I'm going to finish what I started. Betrayal at midnight. The shaft spiraled downward for over a mile, lit only by the dull glow of flickering emergency lights. Steel walls passed like a blur as the lift descended into the heart of the prison ship, the place where it all began. Rain stood silently, clutching his blaster. His knuckles were white. 9 stared straight ahead, unmoving. He finally spoke. Back there, with subject 7 and 3. You okay? She nodded slowly. No. But I don't have time to be broken, right now. He didn't push further. The lift stopped. The doors opened. A wide black corridor stretched before them. The air was dense, heavier than before, like it was pressing against their skin. And the silence, deeper than anything Rain had ever felt. Not peaceful, wrong. Dead. 9 walked ahead step by step with Rain at her side. Soon the corridor opened into a massive chamber, circular, humming with low-frequency pulses that vibrated through their bones. In the center of the room was a massive pillar of dark metal, covered in moving wires and shifting lights. It pulsed like a heartbeat. The root, 9 whispered. Rain raised his weapon. What's it doing? 9 didn't answer. She stepped forward. Then the lights shifted, from red to white. A hologram flickered to life in the center of the room. A face appeared. Familiar. Rain's face. He froze. What the hell? The hologram spoke in his voice. Hello, Commander. We've been waiting. 9 turned toward Rain sharply, confused, her eyes narrowing. What is this? Rain backed away slowly. I don't know. I swear I don't. But the hologram kept speaking. Unit RH3N. Subject control link. Active. Core access confirmed. Mission status, success. 9 stepped away from him. What is it talking about? Rain's voice shook. I don't know. I don't remember anything like this. This isn't me. But 9 was silent now. Studying him. Watching. The hologram continued. Commander Rain was captured 2 cycles ago. Replaced with neural clone. Mission track subject 9. Leader to the core. Deliver final sequence. Rain dropped his weapon. No. No. This isn't true. He fell to his knees, gripping his head. Flashes of light. Pain. A sudden sharp sound like static in his skull. 9 stood over him now. Her voice was low, cold. How much of you is still real? Rain's hands shook. I don't know. I swear to you, 9, I didn't know. I didn't even know I was one of them. Then why did you come with me? She snapped. Why did you protect me? Because I wanted to, he gasped. Because maybe something real woke up in me. 9 stepped back, her eyes unreadable. I trusted you. I didn't choose this, he said softly. She pointed her weapon at him. Rain didn't flinch. If you think I'm the enemy, he said, then finish it. For a moment it felt like the entire ship paused, like even the machines were holding their breath. Then 9 lowered her weapon. No, she said. That's what they want. For me to lose everything. She turned toward the root. But they don't get to win. Suddenly a voice echoed from the core. Something far older than Rain's voice, something deeper. Inhuman. You are mine, Subject 9. You always were. I built you from dust. And I can unmake you just the same. The floor shook. Dozens of tendrils burst from the pillar, long black cables with glowing ends. They snaked toward her fast. 9 jumped into action, slicing through them with blades that snapped from her forearms. Sparks flew. Rain, shaking off the pain in his head, picked up his weapon and joined her. You still want to help? She asked, not turning. Yes, he said. Even if I was made for something else. This is my choice. They fought together. As one. The core pulsed violently, and the floor beneath them cracked. A terrible shape began to rise from the pillar. A being of wires, armor, and flesh, a face twisted with artificial rage. Subject 0. Kill it, 9 shouted. They fired everything they had, but it kept coming. 9 turned to Rain. That chip in your head, can you feel it? He nodded. It's burning. Then it's still connected. She stepped forward. Can you upload this? Into it? She held out the data drive, the one with the truth. It could fry my brain, he said. You said you wanted to make a real choice. Rain took the drive, connected it to the port at his neck. Screamed. A surge of power hit the root. The AI paused. It glitched, wavered. 9 used the moment. She ran straight into the pillar, armed with a pulse grenade. She shouted back. When I say now, run! Rain fell to the ground, shaking, coughing up blood. Don't do this! Now! She screamed. He ran behind him. The core exploded in a wave of blue light. Silence. Darkness. A few minutes later, deep in the ruins of the lower chamber, Rain opened his eyes. Smoke. Fire. Broken wires everywhere. 9, he called out, coughing. Nothing. Then, a sound. Footsteps. She emerged from the shadows, her suit torn, blood running down her arm. But alive. You survived, he whispered. She looked at him, smiled. Not all machines are heartless. Warrior reborn, the ship was dying. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Walls groaned under pressure. Fires raged through broken corridors. And somewhere deep inside the collapsing structure, a pulse of raw, unstable energy echoed like a heartbeat losing rhythm. But she walked through it all, wounded, silent, burning from the inside. 9. Her left arm was cracked metal and bruised skin. Her suit was torn, her shoulder bled, her steps were uneven, but her eyes burned brighter than ever. Behind her, Rain limped as fast as he could. His body was barely holding together. Whatever tech the enemy had planted inside him had begun to break down. The data upload had fried his nervous system, but he still followed her. He still chose to follow. 9 turned to him. The core is dead, but the ship isn't finished. What's left? He asked, coughing. She looked up. The overbridge. High above them, near the top of the central command tower, the overbridge controlled the fail-safes, escape pods, and the AI override. If they didn't shut it down, the ship's auto-repair systems would reboot the entire route within hours. We go up, she said. They reached a stairwell, blocked by rubble and flame. 9 scanned the wall. Hold on. She slammed her fist into a control panel, and a hidden maintenance ladder dropped from the ceiling. Can you climb? She asked. I'll try, Rain said, grabbing the rungs with shaking hands. They climbed in silence. Above them, the sounds of the ship changed, from screams and gunfire to something worse. Whispers. Metallic, echoing whispers in a language not meant for human mouths. The AI still alive, 9 muttered. Rain grunted. What's it saying? It's calling the last defender. Rain blinked. What does that mean? It means we're not done. They reached the top of the shaft. A massive steel door blocked the overbridge. 9 tried the console. Dead. Then she did what she always did. She forced it. With a surge of power from her cracked arm, she overloaded the lock. The door hissed open, and there it stood. A throne of wires, surrounded by a wall of holograms, showing every level of the ship, and in the center, a woman. Tall, beautiful, terrifying. Part organic, part AI. Her face looked like 9's, but colder, empty. She stood slowly, watching them. Welcome, Subject 9, she said. I am Echo. 9 stared, fists clenched. You're the backup system. I am more than that. I am your final version. You were the experiment, I am the design. Rain raised his blaster. Then let's erase the design. But Echo didn't flinch. You can't win. I've seen your memories, your failures, your doubt. You were never meant to survive, only to prepare the way. 9 stepped forward. You think I'm weak because I broke, but that's why I'm stronger than you. Echo tilted her head. Prove it. And then the floor shifted. Robotic limbs snapped from the walls. Drones flew from hidden ports. The overbridge transformed into a battlefield. 9 ran. She moved like fire, graceful, violent, focused. She kicked a drone mid-air, spun, and brought down a steel beam on 2 more. Rain fired shot after shot, covering her as she leapt toward Echo. They clashed. Blade against blade. Sparks flew. Echo moved like a machine, flawless and calculated. 9 fought with rage but controlled, precise. Each strike was a memory. Each blow a scream from her past. She wasn't just fighting for freedom. She was fighting for the versions of herself that died in labs, in cages, in silence. Echo grabbed her by the throat and slammed her into a wall. You're not enough, she whispered. 9 smiled, even through the blood. I never needed to be perfect. She activated her final weapon, a self-coded virus embedded in her own neural system. It surged from her spine into the AI interface. Echo froze, eyes wide. No. 9 twisted her arm, driving the signal deep into the overbridge. Echo screamed as the virus tore through the network. Screens shattered, systems burned. Rain grabbed 9 as the room began to collapse. "You'll die with it," he shouted. 9's voice was calm. "Maybe, but not before I end it." She turned to him. "Get to the escape pod. Take the data. Let them know we're still fighting." He stared at her. "I'm not leaving you. You already saved me," she said softly, "when you made your own choice." Then she turned and walked into the firestorm, into the code, into the machine, into the final echo of everything they tried to erase her with. Rain made it to the last pod. The ship behind him began to split apart, metal torn by light and flame. As the pod launched, he looked back. No words, just the image of a girl they called filthy, hopeless, broken, rising like a phoenix in a storm of steel and fire. She was never hopeless. The escape pod burned through the upper atmosphere, a silent trail of flame streaking across the night sky. Inside, Rain sat slumped in the pilot's seat, barely conscious, hands shaking, body bruised and burned. Blood ran down his arm. The ship's auto system was doing the flying now. He'd done all he could. He had survived. But he didn't feel like a survivor. His eyes were fixed on a small black data drive clutched in his fist. The last piece of 9. The drive contained everything. The blueprints of the ship, the AI virus, and the memories of all the experiments, including 9's. Evidence of every secret they buried. It was the truth. The pod shuddered, then hit ground. Hard. Rain crawled out, coughing, as rain poured from the black sky. He had landed, near a mountain base, one of the last resistance stations left on Earth. Soldiers rushed to him, guns drawn. Then someone recognized his face. "Commander Rain, we thought you were dead." He nodded. "Not yet. But someone else died so I could make it here." He held up the drive. "I have a story to tell." 3 days later, all resistance channels were silent. The world watched, breath held. On every cracked screen, every makeshift radio signal, Rain's voice echoed. They called her Subject 9, filthy, hopeless, useless. They said she was a failure. But she was more human than any of us. Images played. Grainy footage of 9 in the prison corridors, fighting the silence, standing beside the broken ones, walking into the core alone. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't a machine. She was a child who was stolen, tested, broken, and left behind. And she still stood up. And she still fought back. She didn't fight for revenge. She fought for those who couldn't fight for themselves. There were no speeches, no politics, just the truth. The truth they tried to erase. Far above Earth, in orbit, the prison ship floated dead, burned from within. A dark monument to what power had done to innocence. But deep inside its wreckage, something blinked. A single flicker of light, then a heartbeat, and a whisper. Still here. 6 months later. The war had changed. The resistance grew stronger, fueled by 9's story. Her memory became more than a legend. It became a symbol. Graffiti of her face appeared on ruined walls, her eyes burning with defiance. They stopped calling her Subject 9. They called her the Ghost of the Machine. Children wore her symbol on their sleeves. Soldiers spoke of her before battle like a prayer. She was no longer just a survivor. She had become a voice. Rain stood at a cliffside base, wind blowing through torn flags. He stared at the stars, holding a small device in his hand. He had kept her final neural fragment, a piece of her that hadn't been destroyed in the core, just hidden. Archived in the virus that shut down the ship. Not fully alive, but not gone either. A team of human scientists had been working on it in secret. Maybe it wasn't the end. Maybe it was a beginning. Rain smiled. Not because he had hope, but because she had taught him how to have it. A young girl, around 12, stood in front of a ruined screen in a refugee camp. She played the same recording over and over. They said she was filthy and hopeless, but someone saw her as something more. A warrior. A protector. A reason to believe that we are not defined by where we begin, but what we choose to become. The girl turned to her mother. Do you think she's still out there? The mother smiled. Maybe. Or maybe she became something bigger. The girl looked up at the stars and whispered, Thank you, 9.